Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. You know, a lot of people out there know that when I get asked about things like bump stocks, pistol braces, etc., I say, I don't care. I don't support these things because this is an industry that relies on the NFA staying a thing. Because if we managed to get rid of the NFA, they'd go out of business. Because who would buy a bump stock or a pistol brace if you could just get a fully automatic rifle or put a stock on whatever you wanted to put it on? So these people, they make a lot of money and then they work to keep things like the NFA in place. So therefore, I don't fight their battles for them because I don't care. And that attitude gets me a lot of slack from some people. A lot of flack, I should say. But these same people are often surprised to find that I care very much about 80%ers. They think, well, if you don't care about bump stocks and pistol braces, why do you care about private companies that make 80%ers? Because 80%ers are a completely different thing. You know, the whole ghost gun thing, that's a completely different topic. They're very important. And I'll explain why during this video. A lot of places right now are trying to move to ban ghost guns. They're actually trying to say that, a ghost gun, an 80%er is actually a firearm by law, which it absolutely is not. That's the whole point of them. They are not a firearm by law. They do not meet the definition of a firearm. So a lot of places are trying to change the definition of firearm, even though they don't have the authority. The main group trying to change it is the president and the ATF trying to say, well, under our interpretation, they're a firearm. No, they're not. It doesn't matter what your interpretation is. Under the law, they're not a firearm. And people being able to build their own firearms is something that has been upheld by the courts since the courts existed in this country. So this whole notion that somehow the government now has a right to say, well, we're going to change the law to where you can't build an 80%er. Well, they can't do that. At least the president, the ATF, local congresses, whatever. State governments can't do it. Because the Constitution still has that pesky little Second Amendment, and they can't override that. And even if they were going to change the definition of a firearm, they can't do it. It has to be done by Congress. So that the other, infringements, that still are standing right now, that hopefully won't stand forever, if they want to get 80%ers to where they meet the definition of firearms so they fall under those infringements, Congress would have to change the definition of firearm. Not an alphabet agency, and this would have to be the U.S. Congress. Not an alphabet agency, not a state agency, nothing. This is a federal issue. It would have to be done by Congress, and the Supreme Court just recently reconfirmed that. So that is just the reality of it. They can't change the definition of firearm. If you've been paying attention in Delaware, just recently, the state of Delaware, a judge blocked their ghost gun ban from going into effect, saying it is probably unconstitutional. Since they do not meet the standard of being a firearm, and states can't override the Second Amendment, neither can the ATF, that it is unconstitutional. And this was a big surprise to me. Not because of the political positions of people in the state of Delaware, it's just because I always forget that Delaware is a state. So it was very surprising to me. And I think this is going to be the norm coming up, that the people are going to be striking these things down as unconstitutional because, like I said, recently the Supreme Court set a new standard for judging anti-gun laws. They have to meet historical scrutiny. There has to be a historic a precedent set for any infringements, which I don't even agree with that, but that's the new, tougher standard. Used to just be, well, if you can say it's for people's safety, you can uphold these laws. Not the case anymore. Has to be a historic precedent for the law. And there's no historic precedent that says, you can't manufacture firearms on your own. That's been upheld that you can. There's no precedent that says, well, you can't have someone else help you. That's not a law. So 80%ers are not firearms. If you get them and you turn it into a firearm, that's your right. But if you start saying, well, 80%ers are close enough to a firearm to be considered a firearm, well, at what point do you say blocks of aluminum are AR lowers? That's why the states can't do this. That's why it's unconstitutional. They can't change the definition of a firearm. You can't start saying, well, just because you have the parts that you could make a gun from, if you had a CNC machine or blah, 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 then it's illegal. Because here's another thing with that, another slippery slope argument there. We now have 3D printers. Even I own a 3D printer. I don't know how to use it. My son has figured out how to use it. He's been engraving boxes with it for Minuteman ammo. I don't know how to use it, but I have one. So anybody that has a 3D printer is going to start being able to print polymer lowers for ARs, for pistols, whatever. That technology is not in the future. It's now, and it's improving. Pretty soon it's going to be improved to the point where anyone can just, I need a new Glock frame today. And there it is. And you just stick the parts in it. The parts kits you can buy without any types of checks because they're not firearms either. Now, under current laws, you can't sell that to anybody, but you can still make it for yourself. That's the law. So how is the government going to start saying, well, if you get pieces that can make a gun, well, then those are illegal too? Because what are they going to do? Say 3D printers are illegal? They're already trying to say the files are illegal. Listen to that the files are illegal. You have every right to build something, but oh my God, no, you can't have the tools to build it. That isn't going to fly legally. So people having the right to manufacture their own firearms is very important. It's something that's been upheld forever. That's why 80%ers are actually something that matter. Like I said, pistol braces don't fucking matter. Bump stocks don't fucking matter. And when you're being talked into helping support these fights, you're basically just helping pay the legal fees for an entire industry that wants you to remain under the thumb of the ATF and the NFA because that's how they make their money. So stop funding these people. But with 80%ers, it's different. They're obeying the law. They're not breaking any laws. They're not producing anything illegal. Alphabet agencies like the ATF and the president, etc., they're trying to change the definition of the law of a firearm to make them illegal, but they don't have that power. The Supreme Court has already said that, and the other judges are stepping up now and saying, well, under the new rules, you can't do this. Which is why I think all these ghost gun laws and stuff are bound to fail eventually, just like mag limits, etc., assault weapons bans, all of them now are going to fail in court under the new scrutinies. But like I said, this one is very important because since they can't stop you from building something, they're trying to stop you from having the tools. And it was easier for them when you needed a big $10,000 CNC machine, or you needed to be able to, hammer a shovel into a lower for an AK or something. You had to have those skills. They were just basically saying, well, you're not going to be able to build your own unless you're very skilled or wealthy and can afford the equipment. Now, like I said, 3D printers, anybody can make them. Same thing with the 80% lowers. It's no different than you getting a file and printing it, except that you actually have to physically drill things. So, which you probably have to do with 3D printed guns too. You'd probably have to physically drill them. You don't want to try to have those holes produced. So, this is what it's all about. It's all about them trying to say you don't have the right to do the things you have a right to do, which is manufacture a firearm. And about them trying to change the law when they don't have the authority. Only the federal Congress has that authority. And even then, that would have to stand up to Supreme Court scrutiny if they changed it in a way to say, oh, well, yeah, if you have anything that you can build a gun out of, that's illegal. Because that would not withstand court scrutiny. So 80%ers are very important. They're very much worth fighting for because you're fighting for your right to produce your own materials in your home with the equipment you choose. And it doesn't have to be super difficult or super expensive to do so because that eliminates the ability of most people to do it. 80%ers, 3D printers, all that does is make it a more even plane where the guy who works 40 hours a week and lives paycheck to paycheck could possibly make his own stuff too. Just like people who are more well off already could. And has been upheld by the courts that they can. So that's why 80%ers are so important. That's why I will fight for that right while ignoring some of the others. So if you're like me and you believe in the Second Amendment, That's the difference there. That's the real difference. Bump stocks, pistol braces, those are contrary to our rights. That's trying to get around a rule that shouldn't be there in the first place by private industry that's profiting off the rule being there. Whereas bump stocks, that's one of the basic principles of the Second Amendment. That's our right to produce things, and how this is a perfect example of how the government is trying to misuse their power. Since they can't deny us the right to make it, they're trying to deny us the tools to make it and the ability to make it, which, in my opinion, that's still just as big an infringement as saying you can't have it or do it. All right, everybody, that went a little long there. So I want to say thanks, everyone, for coming. Before I leave here, I do want to remind everyone, if you want to support this channel and the things we do, TYM Pets for Vets, the friend drawing, all that stuff, please go over to Patreon, become a patron. That's the best way to support the channel. There's a link in the upper corner to do that. Also, if you want to come to the live chats, we do one every night, 6 p.m. Pacific time, every night except for Monday and Wednesday when it's at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you want to come join us, have a little fun, please do so. There's a link in the upper corner to that also. And one last thing I want to say for all those people that are already patrons, there's 2 things over on the Patreon site right now. If you want to see them, people were bothering me to do a video walk around of my new car. So that is up over there now if you want to go see that if you're a patron. And also there is a new design over there for a mug, t-shirt, whatever, that I want to see if you all like it. My son bought me one of those, we call them Apple pencils, and I drew something the other night with it, first night I had it, and I put it on the website as an example of something we might do in the future for a fundraiser to help a pet or something. So go look at that also. And with all that being said, I want to thank everyone for coming. I do appreciate you being here. I hope to see you tomorrow. Until then, I want everyone out there to remember, always carry and stay safe till I see you again.